Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world and whatever it is you are doing. I hope that you're safe and I hope that you are well. Thank you for joining me. We have a cool little class tonight, very cool little class. I was challenged a couple days ago by a lovely lady to see if I could make a biscuit that she could dunk into her tea. And I had to agree. I was like, that's a fabulous idea. Who doesn't want biscuits that you can dunk into your tea, right? They're just the best thing ever. So she challenged me to create a biscuit, obviously sugar-free, gluten-free and dairy-free, because that's just what we do. So she challenged me to make a biscuit that she could dunk into her tea. And I thought, you know, that's absolutely brilliant. I got to give it a go. And I kept on coming back to that very classic British biscuit, the digestive biscuit. So as you guys know, if you've ever had a digestive biscuit or a digestive, whatever you want to call it, you know that it's not a real sweet biscuit. It's kind of almost a biscuit that, yes, you could dunk it into your tea. You could have it as a snack. I remember I used to put butter on it as a kid and then dunk it into my tea, like a little butter sandwich. But it's also amazing to put onto a cheese board as well because it's not overly sweet. So I thought I would give that a bit of a go. And hi to Amber. Thank you for joining us today. And also hi to Kerry as well. Oh, look at that. I think we've got Queensland in the house today. Hello, Ruth. How are you? So I thought, yes, what I would do with you guys tonight, because I shared the recipe for the digestive biscuit yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Mahi will pop up a link if you haven't already downloaded that copy of that biscuit recipe. And let me tell you, after playing around the recipe, and I was playing around with different types of flours to go into it as well, because I didn't just want to do a gluten-free flour, I wanted to make sure it had a bit more substance and was a little bit better for us. And the result from this biscuit is so delicious. It is literally now currently my absolute favorite healthy biscuit that I have created thus far. I mean, I can still maybe one day create something different, but right at this current point in time, these biscuits are my favorite. So I'm sharing them with you. We're coming up, of course, it's Mother's Day in only a few days. So this is a great little treat if you are considering doing something really special for mum, or for yourself if you're a mum, or if you just want to do something special because it's your day as well, because it doesn't matter if you're mum, dad, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, fur mum, fur dad. It's a day about love. That's what I believe. So this is a nice little opportunity to treat yourself, and these biscuits are incredible. So we're going to get into the recipe. It is simple to make. You do need a food processor. So I'm just using one of those handheld ones. If you've got a larger food processor, by all means, use a larger food processor. The reason why we're using a food processor is because we need to turn the oats into flour. Now, as I was saying, come on down, you know what, come down to the bench, let's get going. So as I was saying before, this is a gluten-free recipe. So because it's got oats in them, and oats or porridge has naturally occurring fine traces of gluten. So if you are celiac, so extremely severely gluten intolerant, you would already know that oats are on your no-no list unless you get gluten-free oats. If you are not celiac, but you're like myself and you are gluten intolerant, so you have, you know, stomach issues and stuff when you eat gluten, I find that I can actually get away with eating normal oats because the amount of gluten in oats is so minuscule that I can actually get away with it. But for some other people, they can't. And if you can't, then you need to go for gluten-free oats. And that's what I suggest in the recipe. And you can purchase gluten-free oats from your health food store or supermarket. If you don't like oats, you could also use in this recipe quinoa flakes instead. So that's your option if you just want to go completely oat-free. So the oats that I'm using, I always get gluten-free oats now, even though I'm not affected, I'm just so used to it. So I'm using gluten-free oats. And I'm going to put everything straight into the food processor because it's the easiest way to measure everything, of course. And when it comes to the oats, I'm going to put 60 grams, which is about 2 ounces of oats are going to go in there. Now, by the way, I'm only doing a half-size recipe because I've got a small food processor. So that's only half of 60 grams, but the recipe will make double this amount. Just so you know, the recipe makes double. I'm just doing half because of my small food processing. So we put the oats in first. And what we want to do, as I was saying, was we want to make quite a coarse flour. You can buy oat flour, but this, by the way, is a lot cheaper if you make it yourself. And what I really like about it is that we want a coarse flour. You don't want it to be too fine. And I actually find that the oat flour that you can buy pre-processed is too fine. So this is the best way to do it, hence why you need to have your little machine. So just on high. Only takes a couple of seconds, and already you can see the texture that we've got there. I'm just going to take it just a step further. So you're after, like I said, like a really coarse flour. And depending on the power of your processor will determine how long it'll take you to get to that sort of texture there. So I'll show you guys the original so you can see the difference. So that's the whole oat. And that is now what we have, this really coarse flour. You can't see whole bits of oats in there, but you've got it nice enough that you'd probably look at that and go, yep, that kind of looks like flour to me. So that's the first stage. Now everything else, this is why I love this recipe, literally goes straight into here. So I'm using buckwheat flour, which of course our buckwheat flour, I mean, you may normally see buckwheat flour, it is used in pancakes, very common buckwheat pancakes. You've probably heard of those. Now buckwheat flour, of course, can contain once again a little bit of gluten, but not too much, which is great, and it doesn't affect me, which is fine. Some celiacs find that it does affect them. If that's the case, you swap it out for a flour that you know works for you. So, oh, I better measure it. I forgot. There we go. I'm going to measure it on here. So I'm adding in, well, the recipe says 100 grams of buckwheat flour, which of course is 3.5 ounces of buckwheat flour goes in. I like buckwheat flour, it's kind of nutty. It's got a little nutty flavor to it. It's definitely got a lot more flavor than, say, your normal plain gluten-free flour, which can be pretty boring. And it does really make really good pancakes. So we've got our flour in there. The next thing we're going to add is just our last bit of flour that we're adding, and this one is coconut flour. You all know coconut flour, and we're putting 80 grams, which is about 2.8 ounces, is going into there. But remember, I'm doing half portions, so I'm just doing a small. When you do the recipe, you'll get twice as much as what I'm getting here. All right, here we go. Get it on the money. Perfect. Okay, what's next? We need to think about adding a little bit of a raising agent. I'm using baking powder. 1 teaspoon of baking powder goes in there. We're also going to add a little bit of salt. Remember, because these biscuits are not overly sweet and they're definitely not salty. They're in between. Hence why they are so versatile and I love them so much. And we're going to put a teaspoon of Himalayan or any type of mineral salt that you might like to use. We are also going to be adding in a little bit of sweetener, and the type of sweetener that I'm using is an erythritol sweetener. So obviously this is a almost 0 calories, would you believe? Almost 0 calories. I'm using the Sirkin Gold one. You don't have to use gold, you can use plain white one. This will just give it a little bit more of a caramel flavor. Completely up to you. But this particular sweetener has almost 0 calories. So you can replace it 1-for-1 with sugar. You can buy it from the health food store. You can buy it from usually in the supermarket, sometimes in the sugar aisle, sometimes in the healthy aisle. And I'm adding, as per the recipe, 60 grams, which once again is 2 ounces. And by the way, this recipe, when you make the full amount, it's going to make you sort of almost, 18 to 24, 26 biscuits. So you get a real good bang for your buck with this one. So another dry ingredient, and the last dry ingredient I'm going to add, of course, is our Pure As Inulin powder. It is going to add, once again, a little bit of sweetness, but not too much. But it's also going with the fibre, as you know. Pure As Inulin also adds fibre to our food, makes it a prebiotic, really gut healthy, which is wonderful. So that's all our dry ingredients done. We're just going to give it a quick little zap in the machine. Just a quick one. Just to pulse it away. Literally blending it, that's all we're doing. Give it a bit more. I was too eager to turn it off a little bit. Oh, sorry. Sorry, machine. Okay, cool. So, make sure that we don't lose the blade. Right, now that we've got that, need that again, I'm going to be adding in the coconut oil, and what you'll notice is it's solid, and we do want it to be solid in this particular recipe. So we're adding in 80 grams as per recipe, me 40 grams because I'm doing half. 80 grams, that's good, of solid coconut oil. If you're coconut oil and you're living in somewhere that's really warm, just pop it into the fridge for a little bit, measure it out, pop it into the fridge. The reason we want it to be solid is we really want it to almost be rubbed through the dry ingredients, which is going to get us a nice, beautiful biscuit once we're finished. So if this machine goes on again, give it a bit of a blend, and you've rubbed in the oil really, really well. How quick is it? I love it. Okay, the very last thing we're going to add into here is our liquid. And our liquid, remember, this is no egg in this, so this is a vegan recipe. As well as being sugar, dairy, gluten-free, it's also vegan because there's no egg in it, which is good. The last thing we're going to add in is I'm adding in, and I've got a can of organic coconut milk that we're going to be adding in here. And in the recipe, it calls for 80 mils of organic coconut milk, and we're going to start with that. If we need to add some more, we will. But one of the tricks, and that's why I thought I would show you guys this recipe on how to put it all together, is you don't want to add all the liquid all at once because your dough might come out too wet. So we're going to add it bit by bit. I like to start with, thinking the recipe it calls for 50 mils. Give it a blend, and what you're now looking for, this is where the magic starts to happen, is I'm looking to see if my dough almost starts to create like a ball in the machine. And it is. So the right way I can tell whether it's ready, where I've got enough liquid, and the reason why I've got the liquid is, for me, I might be only adding a total of 80 mils, and then I find that I'm able to be able to pick up the dough, obviously with nice clean hands, and form it almost into a ball in my hand like that, and it stays together, so it's not crumbly. So that is enough. But if you have, depending on the type of flours that you use, even the type of oats that you use, you might find that you need to add a bit more liquid. That's why if you are unable, the first time you blend it, and you're unable to pick it up, and it's unable to form that little ball there, what you then need to do is add in a tablespoon more of coconut milk, put the lid on, blend it up again, and go back and check it. So that's the sort of increments that you want to add the liquid. You don't want to add too much, otherwise it's going to be too wet, and you don't want to add too little, otherwise it'll be too crumbly. But I'm really happy with what I have there. So the next stage, don't need the processor anymore. Well, the next stage is to, on my lovely clean bench, give my hands just one little quick wash. But onto my nice clean bench, what I want to do now is turn the dough out, and we're going to form it into a ball. And this is another great way for you to be able to, I suppose, to keep an eye on it, to see if you have enough liquid, or if you need to add some more, or if you've added too much liquid and you've got it and it's too wet and it's sticking to the bench, then you begin to slowly add a little bit more of the buckwheat flour goes in there. So this is where you have to be a little bit observant, be a bit mindful of what you're trying to achieve. And basically what you're trying to achieve is the ability to be able to squeeze this dough together. It's not wet and sticking to the board, it's all to the bench. It's also not sticking to my fingers. So this is a really, really good dough. And this is the consistency that you're after when it comes to these biscuits, is the ability to get that. And I didn't have to add any more flour. You've also noticed that I haven't even dusted the bench, which is another really brilliant thing about this biscuit recipe, is it is so easy to make. All you need, like I said, that little food processor, and then that ability to just watch it. See, it's not sticking to my hands. It hasn't stuck to the bench. So what we have here is a fabulous, fabulous little dough that is ready to be rolled out. Because we're using gluten-free flours, there's no gluten in here, we don't even need to wrap that in a little bit of cling film and rest it in the fridge. That's traditionally what you would do when you've got like a biscuit dough or even a pastry dough, is you need to put in the fridge for about 20-30 minutes. What happens then, and if you're using normal wheat flour, gluten flour, is the flour begins to relax and you get a more tender biscuit. Because we're not using anything with gluten, we can go straight to the rolling step. So behind me, my little oven you can see behind me, is set at 150 degrees Celsius. I'll just check for you what that is in Fahrenheit. 300 degrees Fahrenheit. I've set it on bake, and I have my wire rack in the middle of the oven. And now that I've got to this point, to ease me into the rolling process, I'm actually going to take some baking paper, just like this, a piece of, oh, go stray here. Give me a second, guys. Stray here. Stray here. All right, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Piece of baking paper, non-stick baking paper. I'm going to put it down here. And also remember, if you this is half the recipe. If you do the complete recipe, you're going to get double the amount. That's a lot of biscuits. It's heaps. Like literally, it's heaps. I'm so glad though that the kids kind of look at them and they go, oh, they don't look very exciting. I don't think I'll try one. I'm going, nah, it's yuck. Don't try it. Hey, Mahi. Me and Mahi literally get these biscuits to ourselves. It's fabulous. Right, 2 pieces of baking paper. One for the top, one for the bottom. We're going to take our lovely bit of cookie dough or biscuit dough, plonk it right down in the middle, give it a slap to make sure it behaves itself. It's the best part. That's the rewarding part, when you're allowed to slap biscuit dough or pastry. It's very rewarding. All right, got my little mini rolling pin, and then we're just going to roll it out. And the reason we're doing it between the baking paper, it's just easy. It's easy, you know, you don't have to worry about things sticking to the bench, even though it's pretty easy to take off, but this just makes things so nice. So roll it out, and what you want to roll it out to is around about 3 to 4 millimeters, so about just under half a centimeter, which is around about 1/4 of an inch. That's the thickness that we're looking for, because if you've ever eaten a digestive biscuit, you know there's a little bit of a bite to it. It's not a thin, crispy one. It has got a little bit of a bite to it. It's still crispy, but it's not thin crispy. So that's what we're kind of after. So you can as you're rolling, you know, lift up the paper, investigate what's happening down here, make sure that you're happy with it. I'm happy. I'm really happy because I like these. My favorite way to eat them, I must confess, my favorite way to eat them is with cheese, with a really nice triple cream brie or something like that. I love it, absolutely love it. It is wonderful. But even just, yeah, on its own, dunked into your tea, you can't go wrong. And this is one of those Mother's Day delights. So yes, if you are thinking about Mother's Day, this is such a nice option. It is such a nice option. All right, so here we go. We've got it rolled out. You then want to grab yourself up a cutter. Of course, you could just cut them into really random sized shapes, just with a knife. You know, you could cut them that way. Completely up to you. You could be a bit fancy. And I've got this cookie cutter that you can use, and you can just cut them into rounds, of course. You don't even have to dust the cutter, which is, like I said, this is an easy recipe. You do not have to dust the cutter. If you don't have a cutter like this, you could also just get a mug, an upturned mug, and then use your mug to make your shapes. It is up to you. These biscuits do not spread when they're cooking, so you could use some pretty cool shapes. You could use squares, you could use stars, you know, you could basically do whatever you want when it comes to your shapes. So, like I said, you're gonna get, you know, at least 20 biscuits, and I'm using, that's a huge cutter, that's a really good size cutter, at least 20 biscuits out of this. Then I've just got my little offset spatula, as you can see. It's nice and easy for doing this type of job when you just want to be able to pick up your cookie or your biscuit round without breaking it, ideally. And that's what you're after there. And then, of course, it goes onto a tray. I already had one lined up with baking paper. You could just use the baking paper from the bench. Goes onto a tray. I'll show you a couple, just so you know what I'm up to. And of course, because there's no gluten, there is nothing stopping you from taking all the scraps once you've taken out your shapes and put them onto your tray. You want to leave about that much space in between. Like I said, they don't spread much at all. You could probably even get them closer than that. But once you have taken out all your shapes, because we're not using any gluten, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from re-rolling that pastry into a ball, flattening it out again with your rolling pin until all your dough is used up there is, like, this is such a user-friendly recipe because we don't use gluten. And it's not crumbly, you know, we've got that coconut oil in there, which means that we're getting a really easy to handle biscuit. Like, so easy, crazy, right? Good one for the kids to try as well. So once you've got all your shapes cut out, imagine I have, please, cut everything out like a good person. You can then either grab yourself up a fork and prick it all over. This will just stop it from rising up as it's cooking. I've got one of these cool little things. This is like for pastry, when you're doing heaps of pastry, and I just kind of roll my wheel across it just to give it those few little, I'll show you. Can you see the holes? Cool, huh? But that works just as well. So give them a bit of a prick. You don't need to glaze it with anything. You fill up your lovely cookie sheet or baking sheet with your beautiful digestive biscuits, and then this gets popped into the oven. Remember, 150 degrees Celsius, which is 300 degrees Fahrenheit, preheated of course, and that will go in there for between 12 to 15 minutes. But definitely check it after 10. That's my rule of thumb. Remember, I always check it about 3/4 of the way through the suggested time in the recipe, because remember, all ovens are different. So you want to check it after about 10 minutes. And you may need to turn your tray halfway through the baking process as well, just to get it evenly baked. Because the other, beautiful thing about ovens is sometimes the heat's at the back, sometimes the heat's at the front, sometimes the heat's at the side. You just never know. All ovens are different. So if you know that you've got a hot spot in your oven at the back, on the right hand side, by all means turn your tray halfway through. So that then goes into the oven, remember, 12 to 15 minutes. And what you want to achieve at the end of it, here's some I made earlier. How special. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-ta. Look at those. Oh, the smell is amazing. Lovely and golden, but evenly coloured. The oven's only set at 150, nice on the bottom too, 150 degrees, which is not that hot. That's under a moderate oven. And the reason we're doing that is we want to give it a slow bake. Anything hotter, and chances are you'll get it burnt. And you can see the thickness there, yeah? You need a big mug to dunk this one. You need a really wide mug, not a little baby one. But as I was saying, my favorite way to do it, cheese, sandwich between, and then eaten is beautiful. But that is the recipe, and the real beautiful thing about these, as I was saying, it's coming up to Mother's Day. Make sure you enter our Mother's Day competition. Anyone can enter. You get to win. If you win, you get a one-on-one cooking class with me, a virtual one-on-one private cooking class, you in your home, me and mine. We get to cook together. We'll decide what recipe that you'd like to make, and then you and I literally just do the recipe together. You in your kitchen, me in my kitchen. That is for the winner. And they also get a Mother's Day prize pack of more from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, which is a cookbook, and more, and also Bridget's Healthy Breads and Pastries and Bridget's Healthy Treats ebooks. On total, that is over 200 recipes that we're going to send out to you. If you've already got all those, then you can nominate the person that you love, and we'll send it out to them wherever they live in the world. So that's the prize. All you got to do is take a photo of what you're serving for Mother's Day. We are doing a virtual high tea. So you just need to share it on Facebook or Instagram. Make sure you tag us in so I can see it, Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, and hashtag Healthy High Tea. Like I said, anyone can enter. The competition ends on Monday after Mother's Day. So whatever you're making for Mother's Day, make sure you share it. Hashtag Healthy High Tea. Tag me in as well. Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Show us the gorgeous healthy treats you'll be creating for the people that you love this Mother's Day on Sunday. I don't think these are going to last for me till Mother's Day, but I'll try. I'll try. If not, I'll have to make some more. How do they taste? You want to wait for the crunch? Oh, I probably didn't hear that. I felt it. Oh, they're so good. Mm-hmm. They are good. They are good. Oh, that lovely bit of coconut hidden in there. Even with just a little bit of butter. Amazing. But in your tea. And I just have my tea black, and it's still incredible. So there you have it, guys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that. Please do not forget, tomorrow is Friday, So it's Q&A Friday. If you have any burning questions you would like to have answered, join me tomorrow, 12 o'clock at Sydney, for Q&A Friday. We'll be going over the questions from the week. We have more things to share about our new book, Eat Your Way Slim and Healthy, which is being released in August. We've got more information to share about that, lots of exciting stuff. Plus, of course, we are going to be talking about a topic that has been hot on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen family in our private group all week. Things that I've noticed, a bit of a theme, we talk about that as well. So that's tomorrow, Q&A Fridays. Can't wait to see you. Don't even know if these will last that long. I'll try. Take care, guys. Don't forget, if you want the recipe, Mahey has just shared the recipe for you guys. You can download it and have your own copy and make these gorgeous biscuits at home. Alright, take care.